Hello to everyone and welcome to our developer coaching event. My name is Violeta. I'm a digital adoption manager. I'm based in beautiful Bucharest, Romania. Today I'm joined by Bhaskar, who will be your speaker for the Oracle e-business suite to OCI using a web-based application, namely EBS Cloud Manager. Bhaskar, would you like to say hello to the audience?
Yeah, hello everyone. Good afternoon and good morning everyone from wherever you're joining.
Important note regarding the demos you will see today. So all the examples presented in this live event are purely fictive and they are not showcasing any real use case we are working on. So keep that in mind. Also, the scope of this event is purely educational. And if you are planning to using our services further, feel free to connect with your Oracle account representative. That was all on my side. Bhaskar, over to you.
Thanks, Violeta.
So hello everyone, I'm Bhaskar Ivaturi from Oracle Lift Services, working as an implementation tech lead. And today we are going to discuss about lift and shift, how to do the lift and shift of Oracle e-business suite from on-premises to OCI using EBS Cloud Manager application. So the agenda for today's session will be, we'll start with a quick introduction about the EBS Cloud Manager application. And then we will understand about what is lift and shift is all about. And then we'll look into some of the prerequisites, what we need before we start the backup from on-premises when we are taking the backup of the instance to moving it to the OCI. And then we'll jump into a demo section where we will see how to take the backup of the instance through the EBS Cloud Backup module. And then we will see how to do the provisioning using the EBS Cloud Manager application in OCI. So we'll start with the quick introduction about the EBS Cloud Manager application now. So EBS Cloud Manager is a web-based application that drives all the automation flows of EBS on OCI. So it helps us to do the provisioning of new environments in OCI, and we can also perform all the lifecycle management activities on those newly provisioned environments in OCI. So as an apps DBA, we don't have to manually do anything like provisioning the database DB systems or the compute VMs. So everything is automated for us when we use this application. And not only that, we can also do the restoration of the environments from the on-premises. We can take the backup of the instance which is running on your on-prem and move these backups to the OCI. And once the backup is moved to OCI, we can then use this Cloud Manager application to do the new provisioning using this backup. And the current EBS release version which is available is 24.114. In the marketplace, you can go there and do the provisioning of this application. So let's understand what is this lift and shift process is all about. So lift and shift process is a process where you move your existing environment from on-premises to OCI. So it's like your cloning process where you take the copy of your source environment and move this copy to OCI, to your storage service. And once the backup is moved to your OCI, from the backup, you will then use the Cloud Manager application to provision the instance. So this lift and shift process is divided into two phases. In the first phase, you will be using the EBS backup module, so which comes with the EBS Cloud Manager. So this tool will help you to take the backup from your on-premises EBS instance. And the backup will be moved to OCI object storage. And once the backup is moved, in the second phase, you will use the Cloud Manager application. With this backup, you will then do the provisioning of your environment. It can be on the compute or the application can be on compute and the DB can be either on compute, DBCS or XSS. So this is the total two phases what you are going to achieve when you are using this application. So before you start taking the backup of your EBS application from your on-premises, what all the key considerations you need to ensure before to have a seamless migration. So your source environment of the backup must be at a certified EBS release, and also the database should be at a certified release version. So it can be either 12.1.3 or 12.2 with database version as 19C. And you also have to ensure that all the appropriate patches are applied on your source environment. So you can follow this MOS note, which is 251.7025.1. Getting started with EBS on OCI. So this note has all the information about the prereq patches which you need to ensure before you start the migration. And the source should be on the Linux. And if you have the source other than Linux, you need to consider a different approach, maybe an XDS v4 if it's a cross-platform migration you are going to do. But here it's an as-is migration, which will be achieved by this Cloud Manager application. And then once you are done with all the pre-checks which you have to do from this MOS node, you need to ensure that your source database has archive log mode enabled. Usually that will help us to take the hot backups. And then you also need to create a stage directory on your source application and DB nodes. So this temp directory will hold all the temporary files during the backup when it is taking the backup process is happening. And this stage folder should be at least having 20 GB of free space. And if your source database is TD enabled, you need to ensure that your pluggable database is also in open state with wallet type showing as auto login or passwords. So once you are done with all these pre-checks, you need to also ensure that there are no active patch cycles running on your EBS environment. And the Fusion middleware home, which is under your EBS_domain folder, is not less than 5 GB. It's not more than 5 GB. You need to ensure that this folder is less than 5 GB of space. So if you have some OA core or admin server logs, just purge them before you start taking the backup. And then you also have to run this Java permissions on the database side. As SS users, you will be executing this Java permissions. And you will also ensure that there is no other backup running when you are executing this backup module. So if there can be any conflict, like if you have some cron tabs you have set for running your backups from your on your database side. So you just have to disable those also. So once everything is done, you are all set to download this backup module. So you have to download this patch, which is 36331515. This patch is available in My Oracle support, and you have to download this patch and upload this patch to one of your on-premises DB or application node. So this database node or the application node from where you are going to execute this backup module, it should have the connectivity to the OCI tenancy, to your object storage service. If you have the internet connectivity from the source application node or the DB node, you can put this patch on that particular node and you can execute this patch from that particular node. Otherwise, you can use the proxy details, or if the on-prem and OCI is already connected with the IPsec tunnel or FastConnect, you can also have the service gateway in place to have the connectivity, and you can easily upload the backups to OCI. So this is all on your on-premises side. On the target side, on your OCI side, you need to have your tenancy ready with the user created, to which user you are going to upload the files, the backup files. You have to create an API sign-in key with that user, and the private key of that API sign-in key, you have to copy that and place it on your DB node or application node from wherever you are going to execute this backup. And you also need to have the OCI details, user OC details and the tenancy OC details handy before you start this backup process. So let's go into one of the EBS instance, and then we will see how to do the backup. So I already have all the information handy. I have kept all the information in one of the Excel sheets here, which I'll be using when I'm running this backup module. So this is one of the EBS environments which I'm having here, and I have kept the API keys in this location where I have made it as OCI API.key file, which is the tenancy user, the target tenancy user which I have created, and I've already created this key and I've uploaded this to the DB node. And along with that, I have already downloaded this patch from My Oracle support and uploaded this patch into this directory, which is under EBSCM_backup module. I have also created two stage folders. One is for the application side and one is for the database side under this directory. So with all that done, let's go to this directory, which is EBSCM_BKP module, where I have my zip file. And this zip file, I've already unzipped it. So you'll be getting this folder, which is 36331515. And within that, you will see a folder called remote clones. So you'll switch to this folder and then you will have all the required files. So this is the script which you will be executing to start the backup from your on-premises EBS environment. And this script will take the backup, do the pre-validation checks, and then the backup will be moved to the OCI, to your object storage. So how you will be running this script? You will be using the Perl command to run this script. So the Perl is also shipped along with this patch. So you have the Perl binaries under this 3pt folder. So you just simply run 3pt and then /perl/bin and then Perl space with this script. So there we go. So once you run this script, it will ask you the basic details like all the database source application details and the OCI tenancy details where you want to migrate. So we need to provide all the options. We have to select the options and provide it. So we are going to create the EBS backup and upload this backup to OCI tenancy. So we are going with option 1 here. And if your database node is having, if it doesn't have the direct connectivity and you are using any proxy details for the connections from the on-premise to OCI, then you will be providing the proxy details here. In my case, I have the direct connectivity from the server to the OCI object storage service. So I'll go with option number 2 here. And then I have to provide all the database details. So this is my source database details. As you see, I have already executed this script once. So I can see it is defaulting the previous entry which I have passed. So you can just simply click on enter. It will take this value, what is there. So this is my source database fully qualified domain name where my database is running. And the OS user with which the database is running, I'll use that, which is Oracle in my case. And if the user has any password, you will be providing the user password. Otherwise, if you are logging with the user with a SSH key, you can skip this part. So I'm not using a password to log into this user. So I'll skip this. And the custom private key file. So using this key file, the SSH key, I'll be logging into this user, right? So I have to provide the full path of this private key, which I have in my Excel. So this is the SSH key which I'll be using to log into this user on this server. If it has any passphrase, you will provide that passphrase. Otherwise, you'll skip this. I don't have any passphrase there. And the context file absolute path. So this is your source database XML, that complete path of your XML file, which is your context file. So this is already defaulted. So I'll just click on enter, which will take this value. And if you want to change the OS time zone other than your current operating system, which is set with some time zone, you can provide that. Otherwise, if you skip this part, it will take the default OS time zone based on whatever it is running on your database. And if your source database is encrypted with TDE, you will say yes. Otherwise, you will say no. In my case, the source database is not enabled with TDE. And remember, even though your source database is not encrypted with TDE on your source, when you provision this instance on OCI in DBCS or XSCS, on the target side, your database will be TDE encrypted. And once it does the validations for your DB node, it's asking you to provide the stage directory. So this is my stage directory where I want to use it as a temporary storage where it takes the backups and move them to the OCI. And now we have to provide the proxy details for the application. Again, I don't have any proxy, so I'll go with option 2 and move forward. And there I have to provide the application source details. So this is again my application source details. In this case, both my application and DB are running on the same node, so it's the same host name I'm using. But in your case, when you have a multi-node architecture, you have DB on a different node. So for the application node, you will be providing the host name of the application server. And the OS user where the application is installed. So Oracle is the OS user in my case. And if there is a password, you want to go with the password. Otherwise, it's the private key. So private key path, so which is the same path. And I don't have any passphrase here, so I'll skip this. And the complete path of your context file. This is here from the application side. So you will be providing the complete path of the XML file and the source apps password. So let's give the source apps password and the stage directory from the application server. So you have to create a different directory on the application server as well. So that folder path you will be mentioning here. So this is my application stage directory. And the WebLogic admin password, this is from the source. We'll provide that WebLogic admin password. And once the validation is completed, we'll move on asking us to the system password. This is your EBS_system password. Now it's moved to the next details, where you have to enter the backup details. You have to provide a backup identifier. So using this backup identifier, it will create two directories, two buckets on your tenancy, in your target tenancy, wherever you are going to move these backups. So let's say the backup identifier as EBS backup, and I'll say 11 BEC as the date. Yesterday I have run this, so that's why it's showing you 10 December. So I'm taking a new value here instead of going with the same value. And how many thread counts you need for this backup? So as this is based on your source database CPU version in CPU power. Now how many CPU cores you have, then you can go with higher number of thread counts. Here it is showing 4. I'm going with 4 CPUs. So I'll go with 4 thread counts. And how you want your backups to be taken, whether you want to have them as tar or you want to have them as TCZ. So I'll go with TCZ. And if you have any advanced parameters configuration for your RMAN, like you have set some compression or you have some other channels for RMAN compression, you can create a parameter file and you can pass those details with that. In this case, I'm not going to have any additional parameter file for the RMAN backup process. So I'm skipping this with blank. And then I'll be providing an encryption password. So this password I'll be using when I'm doing the provisioning with this backup on the target side. The same password has to be used when you are doing the provisioning. So keep that in mind and note this password wherever you have to note it down. You'll confirm this password again. And once this is done, you need to provide the OCI tenancy details. So before that, if you have to use any proxy details to connect to the OCI server, to the OCI tenancy, you can provide that. Otherwise, you will skip this part with option number 2. And there you go. So here you will be providing all the information about your OCI tenancy, the user OCID with which this server will be connecting to the tenancy and pushing all the backups to your object storage service. So this is my user OCID, and then followed with the fingerprint details and the private key path, which we have seen initially. This is the key path, the fully qualified path of this key. This is the API sign-in key which we have on the application side, and the tenancy OCID value. So what is your tenancy OCID value? You'll be providing that information and the region details. In my case, it's Frankfurt, and then the tenancy name. And then the compartment OCID value. So this is the compartment where the backups will be moved from your on-premises to OCI. That's the compartment OCID value. And then you will be providing how your target database will be created. Whether your target database will be created on your compute instance, or it will be created using a base database service, or it will be on an Exa database service. So I'll be going with base database service as my target DB system. And once that is done, you can see the complete information and you can review them, all the information which you have provided. And once you are fine with all the information, you will say yes to continue with the action. And then it will start the backup process. So here what happening now is, it is performing the validations of your source database and the application node. So once it is able to connect to the application nodes and the DB nodes from wherever you are running this backup module on your source environment, it does the validation and it checks your XML file, apps passwords. Once that is done, it will start taking the backup of your database using the RMAN, and these backup pieces will be then transferred to OCI object storage. So this is all will be taken care automated by this tool. You don't have to do anything manually. So once this is done, I will go to the OCI tenancy. Let's switch to the OCI tenancy. This is my target tenancy where the backups will be coming. So if you go to from the navigation menu to the storage and click on the buckets and change the compartment to the appropriate compartment where whatever the compartment OCI ID we have given. So if you switch to that compartment, you will see these two buckets created. So these are the buckets which are created yesterday, and with the backup identifier tag which we have given. And then you will be seeing there will be a DB as a postfix which will be attached for all the DB backups will be placed under this bucket. And you will also have one more bucket called with generic, where it will have all the application binaries along with the Oracle home binaries. So if you go into this bucket, you will see the database backup here. Like under the file chunk, you will see the DBID folder, and inside that you will have a CDB folder where you have the backup pieces with the date. And there you go, you have all the backup files uploaded to the object storage service. So this is done yesterday, so that's why you already see the files here. But the current backup is still getting executed. It's doing the validations. So once the validation is completed, it will create the new buckets for you. You don't have to create them. They will be created automatically in your tenancy. And then you will start seeing these files getting uploaded to your object storage service. And similarly, if you go to the generic folder, you will see the apps folder. Under that, you have Apple top, you have the common top, all the binaries, zip files from the common top, and tools. And then you have the binaries of your DB home as well, Oracle database home. So this is how the backup will be transferred to the object storage from your on-premises. So it's still doing the validations. So once this backup is moved to the OCI, so your phase one, the first phase is completed, and then you will be moving to the second phase where you will be doing the provisioning using this backup in your using the EBS application, which is your Cloud Manager application. So before you do this provisioning, you need to have the Cloud Manager application to be configured and provisioned in your tenancy. So what you will be doing is you will be going to Marketplace and you will provision a new EBS Cloud Manager instance. And once this instance is provisioned, you will configure that and integrate that application with your IDCS as a confidential application. And once the EBS Cloud Manager application is up and running, you will be then creating the network profiles. Remember, the network profile is just a mapping in the Cloud Manager application. The actual subnets and the VCNs you'll be creating from your OCI tenancy. So all the compartments, users, groups, you will be creating them upfront in your OCI tenancy along with your VCNs and the subnets. And once that is all done, you will be provisioning this Cloud Manager application from the Marketplace. And then from the Cloud Manager console, you will be then creating this network profiles. So let's go to the Cloud Manager console. So this is one of the EBS Cloud Manager console in my tenancy. So you can see you have the navigation menu on the left hand side where you can go to the administration part, and there you have the network profiles. I have already created network profiles which are the mapping for the actual network, and it's under the compartment. So whatever the compartment you have selected has to be selected here, and there you go. This is my network profile. So if you go into this network profile, you can see the mapping is done in such a way that all my database, whatever we are going to provision now, the VMDB system or the XSES or the compute. So you have to set the database subnet for the DB node, and application subnet will be going for your application computes. This is my application subnet. And similarly for the load balancer, if you are using the web entry point as a load balancer, then you will be providing a subnet for your load balancer. And if you have an external zone, this is for my internal zone. You can also add an external zone to your network profile. In my case, I don't have an external zone requirement, so I have gone with only internal zone. But if you want to have a application with external node, so you can add those subnets also. You can map those subnets also as an external zone to your network profile. And also, if you are going with a shared file system with FSS, with your file storage service, and you are using a mount target in a different subnet, so you can also add that subnet to your shared file system when you are creating this network profile. So once that is done, you will be going to your backup section. From your navigation menu, click on backups and change the compartment to your compartment where you have uploaded the backups, and the backup will be listed in this way. So this is the backup which I have executed yesterday. That's why I'm seeing this. Then the current backup, let's see what's happening here. Yeah, you can see that validations is all completed and it has actually started taking the backups. And let's see on the OCI console if there is a new bucket created. There you go. So you see already there is a bucket newly created a while ago, and this is now having a DB as a name with the backup identifier what we have given. And if you look into this object storage bucket, you will see that it's doing some heartbeat and uploading some catalog information to the bucket. And it will slowly start uploading the backup pieces as well. So they will be under your uncommitted parts. As of now, you can see it started uploading the files to the object storage bucket. So, but we will proceed with the backup what we have taken already, which is in my tenancy, and I can see this backup from my EBS Cloud Manager application. So using this backup, how you will be doing the provisioning. So you go to the action menu on the right hand side, the 3 dots, click on that and click on provision environment. So with this option, you can do the provisioning in your tenancy. So you'll change the compartment, the respective compartment where you want to do the provisioning. And in this compartment, I have my network profile, which is EBS prod. We have already created this, and how you want to name your environment. So this is my EBS new. I'll say this is my EBS environment name. And then you have all the information coming from your backup, whatever you have taken. This is my backup details. The backup type is showing as for database is RMAN, and the time zone profile from your source, and the backup size of your database. And then you have to provide the encryption password. This, remember, we have given the password while taking the backup, right? The same password, you have to provide it here. So let's put the password and the source apps password. This is your source application apps password. And then you can set a new password for your EBS system schema on the target side and re-enter that password. And then you can also set a new password for your WebLogic user. So I'm setting a new password here. So this is creating, it's changing the password on the target side. You don't have to go with the same password what you have on the source system. And then you can see the operating system's time zone. It's getting defaulted to the time zone what we have taken from the source. And if you want to change this, you can change this time zone to a different time zone. You can select that, and then you have to also check this checkbox to bypass the validation of the time zone, because you are going with a different time zone on the target side. And if you want to add some tags, you can add these tags, or you can add the tags at a later point of time when the provisioning is completed. So once this is done, you will go all the way on the top and click on the next. It will do the password validations. It will check the passwords what you have provided from the source app side, as well as the encryption password what we have provided. And the next, we have to provide the database details here. How you want to do the deployment of your database, what are the choices you have. You can put your database in compute, or you can go with the base database service, or you can have your database on XSES. But we have already selected to have our database on base database service. So I'm going with this option. and you will be providing the database name. So provide some DB name here. So let's say this is my DB name. And then you will be providing a TDB name for your database. So I'll say it's EBS PRD. And then you have to provide the patch set level, whether you want to go with the latest patch on the DB side, which is 19.24, or you want to go with N-1 according to your compliance. You can select the required patch. But remember, the best practice is always to go with the latest patch. So I'm going with 19.24. And then you will be selecting the shape for your DB system. So what shape you want to go with, whether you want to go with VM standard 2.2 or you want to go with the latest shapes who are like VM standard E4 flex or E5 flex or standard 3.flex. So whatever the shape you want to go with, you'll be selecting that shape. So I'm going with the default shape in this case. And then the number of nodes, how many nodes you want to go with. Either you want to go with a single node or you want to have your database on a 2-node rack. So if you go with the 2-node rack, your database software edition will be defaulted to extreme performance. That's the edition what you have to select. And if you are going with single node, you can select your software edition either with enterprise edition or high performance, or you can also go with the extreme performance. So in this case, I'm going with the software edition as enterprise edition, and then you'll be selecting the license type, whether you want to go with license included or bring your own license. So if you have your on-premises licenses, you'll be going with bring your own license. And these license types, you can also change them after the provisioning is done. You can go to the console and do the changes. But remember, the software edition, once you have selected this software edition, you'll not be able to change it after the provisioning is done. So be careful when you're selecting the software edition according to your requirement. You'll select that, and then you will provide a new admin password for your system and wallet. So let this be having 2 uppercase with 2 lowercase and all the required special characters. And re-enter the admin password. So once this is done, you can select the fault domain based on your selection, or you can go with automatic selection as well. And from the advanced option, if you are going with the better CPU on the target side, you can increase the channel, the RMN channel count you can increase. Otherwise, you can go with the default, what is showing up here as 4. So once this is done, go scroll all the way up to the top and click on the next. And this will take you to the application details. So you can see you have a zone details. You can provide some zone information details, like this can be an optional name for your zone. Either you can go with the default name or you can change this name as per your choice. And then you have to provide the web entry point details. Whether you want to go with a new load balancer for your application, or you want to go use an existing load balancer, or you don't want to configure a load balancer using this Cloud Manager application and you want to do the configuration manually, you can select that option. So in this case, I'll go with the new load balancer and select the shape according to your requirement, the bandwidth of the load balancer. Let's it be 100 Mbps. And this can also be changed once you do the provisioning. You can always go and update these values from the OCI console. And how you want your load balancer, with SSL or non-SSL, you will be selecting the protocol here and provide a host name for your EBS external URL. I'll say EBS prod as my URL, and then the domain name followed with the port number. So in this case, I'm going with the port 443 for my URL. And then I'll be selecting the storage type. If you want to go with multiple application nodes and you want a shared application file system, you can select the shared option here for the file system. But here I'm just going with one single application node. So I'll select non-shared and then provide a logical host name for my application host name. So let's say my application host name is EBS PRD app, and then the domain is oracle.com. So this is my logical host name prefix for my application host name and domain. And I can also go with manual selection. And then I'll be clicking on add node. So how many application nodes you want to add, you can go there, click on the add node and keep on adding the nodes. So I'll click on add node. So there you go. The automatic host name is coming as EBS prod IPP01. And this is how the fully qualified domain name looks like. And then you'll be selecting the shape for your application compute VMs. Again, you can select the required shape as per your requirement. Either you can go with VM standard 3 flex or VM standard E5 flex, whatever you want. And then number of CPUs. Let's say I want to go with 2 CPUs and 32 GB of RAM. I can select that. And then the storage, the block volume storage. So this is the default minimum required storage based on the backup which it has taken from your on-premises EBS instance. If you want to increase the storage volume, let's say you want to go with 200, you can update that value here, or you want to go with 250, that's fine. And you can also upgrade this volume size once you have done the provisioning is completed. Later on, you can go to the block volume storage and you can do the changes. And you can select the required fault domain for this application node. So I'm going with FD1 here and click on add node. So this will be adding the application node for you. If you want to add one more node, you will be clicking on add node once again. So in this case, I'm fine with this. Scroll all the way up to the top and click on save zone. So once you click on save zone, you will see that the license type, it will be prompting you for asking for the license type, whether you want to go with bring your own license or you want to go with the UCM license model for your application middleware license. So I'm going with BYOL. And the operating system, if you want to go with OEL 7 or you want to go with OEL 8. So I'll go with the latest OS, which is OEL 8 for my application compute nodes. And if you want to add one more zone, like an external application zone, so you can click on add zone, and then you can provide the external zone details here. And again, you will be providing the web entry and a different load balancer for your external application and follow all the options for adding the application node details. So I'm fine with only one single zone here, which is my internal zone. And this is how the web entry point URL will look like. This is my external underscore URL or the login underscore page, how it looks like. And once that is done, you will click on next here. This will bring you the extensibility options where you can see the job definition details. If you want to pause your job in particular phase, so you can come to this section, and let's say after configuring the database, before you want to start the configuration of your application, you can come to this section, click on this 3 dots and click on add pause. So this will pause the job. So it will only do the provisioning of the database and the application computes. After that, it will do the configuration of the database. It will not start the configuration of your application file system. So if you want to do some changes or if you want to run some custom things on your database, you can pause your job, and then you can, once you are done with all the changes, you can unpause the job and continue with this provisioning. So I'm not adding any pause to the job here, and then I'll click on next, where it will be asking me to upload the SSH keys. So the SSH keys, you will click on add key. So these are the SSH keys, the public keys you will be uploading here, and the corresponding private keys you will be holding with you from your client machine, from wherever you are logging into the application node or the DB node, you will be using these keys. So you can have the same keys for both DB and the application nodes, or you can have different SSH keys for your application and DB node. So I'm going with the same node, same keys for all the tiers here. So I'll select the all tiers and click on the upload button here. So I'm uploading one of the public key. So this is my public key, and then click on next. So with that, you will get all the information details what you have provided. So you just cross check these details. If everything, whatever you have provided looks fine, then you can click on submit button. So once you submit this job, what will happen? It will start provisioning a VMDB system. This is a base database service you can see here with the shape 2.2. And then it will restore the database for us. And it will also create a load balancer. A new load balancer will be provisioned in your OCI tenancy with the shape 100 Mbps as the shape, and it will configure the load balancer with the backend sets. It will also provision the compute VM for the application node, which is OEL8, and configure the application details for us. All the application file system will be configured, like running the ADCFG with ULFS and restoring the database. Everything will be automated for us. So as an apps DBA, you don't have to worry about anything. We don't have to do anything manually. You will simply submit this job, and it will start doing the provisioning, and it will start doing the restore. Everything will be done in automated way. So now the job is submitted here. So you can see the input validation is in progress. You will click on this job. It will take you to the job details here. You can select this auto refresh button. There you go. You can see that the pre-validations is in progress now. So once the pre-validation is completed, you will start seeing the provisioning kicked off, and it will start provisioning the DB system, and then the compute VMs, and then the load balancers. See, now the pre-validation is completed. So it started, and it's done with the initialization phase, which is completed, and it is validating the network setups. And then once the validation is done and the execution is completed and the provisioning is completed, you will see this instance under your environment. So if you go from the navigation menu and click on the environments here, and select the appropriate compartment. So here I have already provisioned an instance earlier. You can see the instance coming up here. The job is completed successfully. And if you click on this instance, you will have all the information like the application node details. You have the zone details like your web entry point. This is your application node, the IP address details, and the DB node details. And from this section, you can then do a clone from your EBS application, the Cloud Manager itself. You can do a clone. You can create a new instance from your existing running environment. And also you can take the backups. You can create the backups of your both database and application. And you can also assign a backup policy if you want to automate the backups. If you want to take the backups regularly on a daily basis, you can create a policy and you can assign this policy to your environment. And you can also do the refresh if you don't want to do a clone, create a new instance. You can also do a refresh of your existing environment. And unregister will unregister the application from the Cloud Manager. And if you do the delete, this will also delete the environment from the OCI. So all the DB system which is provisioned in your OCI tenancy and the load balancer application compute VMs will be terminated. So if you go to the tenancy here, you will see from the database section, if you go to the Oracle database and base database service and select the compartment, and you can see the EBS new is getting provisioned here. So this is the VM standard 2.2, which we have just selected. It's getting provisioned. And the one which is already provisioned, this is the environment we have already up and running in the same directory. And if I'm deleting this instance will also get deleted from your OCI tenancy. So this is all automated for us, even the provisioning as well as termination of the instances. And so be careful when you are deleting this. This will actually delete the environment from your OCI tenancy as well. Yeah, so here if you go, the job is in progress now. As you can see, the pre-validation is completed. It's showing as successful. And the execution phase is started. And you already saw that the DB system is getting provisioned, and similarly the application compute VMs will also get provisioned. So if you go to the compute instances, and select the compartment. Yeah, this is my compartment. You can see the new EBS app 01 is getting provisioned and it's already running in the running state. So this is how you will be doing the lift and shift process. It's straightforward by taking the backup from your on-premises. Once the backup is moved to the OCI, you will simply use the Cloud Manager application to do the provisioning. So I have some useful resource links which you can use to do this migration and have some more overview about the EBS Cloud Manager. You can follow this getting started to EBS with EBS on OCI. This is the voice note which I was discussing initially in one of the slides. And you have the EBS Cloud Manager guide, which will let you know how to do the provisioning of the EBS instance from the marketplace and how you do the configuration and the setup for your EBS application. So once that is done, you will be then have the guide will have all the information. So always remember, you take the latest patch available for the backup module. So always refer this guide and have the latest patch downloaded to your one of the DB or the application nodes on your on-premises from where you are going to execute this backup. So yeah, with that, I'm done with my part. So back to you, Violeta.
Thank you, Bhaskar. Many thanks. 1 second.
Yeah, hello everyone. Just to close, and is connected to the session that we had. We recently announced the opportunity, the possibility to enable natural language query on ABS and use Oracle Generative AI services. So I will share in chat and also into the package of information that will come to you with the recording. There will be this link to a blog, and you will get all the information there. So thank you again, Bhaskar and Violeta. I'm sharing now in chat. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. So with that was all from us today. We hope that you enjoyed the session. Many thanks, Bhaskar, for presenting to us. Shiva, many thanks for assisting in the Q&A. I know you've been busy today. In case anyone has questions, feel free to come back to us on Slack or via email. Or if you'd like to join us for a 20 minutes call with Bhaskar at a later date, feel free to ask for it on the channel, and we will be happy to schedule for you. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.